Coach Massialas, now as your role being the national team coach for men's foil, any good result is special. But how special is it when your son Alexander himself not only wins the World Cup, but in doing so advances to the #1 ranking in the world?
Well, it's great. I mean, I'm happy for him. It's a wonderful thing, but both of us know that this is just a little small milestone. Not necessarily so small, but it's a milestone. The long haul, the end line is real. And so he understands, and I understand, of course, the fact that it's nice to be along the situation. The bottom line is we have to get step by step each way along the way, stay healthy, be good, focus all the way, and be ready at that end line. Because that's what's going to be able to count. It's nice to have #1, it's nice to have little accolades along the way, but the reality is that we're all waiting for that, Rio de Janeiro, and we're, kind of our goal was both the individual and the team, not just for Alexander, but really the whole group all together. And I made a prediction that I hope holds up, and I'm not going to tell you what it is, but I hope good things happen for the whole U.S. squad. But I can tell you one thing, that as a national coach, really a big part of my job is actually work with the coaches together and have everyone working together as a group. And I think this is the one thing that makes a difference for us, because if you look at Simon, who's working with Miles, of course, and Dan, who's working with Race, and of course Garrick and Alexander, who are my students, that we're really all working together as a group. And everyone, the coaches, the fencers, and if we have this kind of concerted effort, like I told the guys after the victory in Tokyo, we fence like this, we fence united like this, nobody can stop us. Mm-hmm. Nobody.
And talking about that collaboration, if you will, you look at the M-team style of fencing, and then across the country on the other coast, you have kind of that Simon style, because it was Simon and Irene that trained Dan,
right,
who's now, of course, coaching Race. What is it that you guys are doing to collaborate? Is it technical? Is it tactical? And
no, it's more tactical. It's more about getting prepared, having videos available, having things that we can access, things that we kind of do together, and also really talk among the sort of the similarities, because we talk about what the opponents are going to do. Race will deal with it in a different way. Obviously, he's left-handed, but Miles is going to deal with it in his own sort of way. So everybody, but so long as we all know what it is that we're dealing with and we're in the right situation, then we will adjust however it is for us. Because, like I said, Dan's been with him, but even before Jed was there with him. So the reality is that those are all sort of Simon students, and those guys can kind of relate, but it's really at that level. It's more about how it's going to work for Miles to move and do his thing, and all of a sudden, staying healthy and all this kind of stuff. And then when he does that, he's great. And the same thing with Race. So like I said, we look at it from a different perspective, but this is what's going to happen, be ready. And so Race will deal with it this way, Miles will deal with it that way, Alexander and Garrick will deal with it in different ways. So that's the whole idea. That's a sort of collaboration. It's not like, well, do what Miles did or do what Race did. No, it's not. It's like you deal with it, your experience of what it is. But more importantly, I think it's the energy of Simon is really, dedicated to that team effort. Dan also, even though Simon wasn't able to because of health reasons to come to some of the events, but he's very much dedicated and feel part of the whole group, just like Dan and myself are when we're there.
Kind of a unified vision, customized approach.
United we stand, divided we fall. So united we're going to stand on that podium, and that's the goal.
Now, in fencing, there's such a focus on the technical aspects. How are you achieving that tactical cohesiveness? Are there drills? Is it all conversation? How is it that you're kind of replicating that to ensure everyone's on the same page?
Well, I mean, it's never, like I said, everyone deals with it in a different way. But the reality is that what we're doing is we're having the data. So the USOC has helped us a lot be able to have the data, so we can share the data amongst ourselves, be able to have it available, so we can then study different people along the way. So we know what exactly the flow of things are, and then how people are going to eventually maybe change and be ready for those changes, and then make the final change, of course, in Rio. But the reality is that we're looking at those things, and then Race will deal with Dan, how he's going to relate to those situations that he comes up with. Miles will relate to it in his own way, how he does. Some things maybe with Simon, sometimes just by himself. I mean, everybody has their own thing. And then the same thing I have actually back in San Francisco, we have sessions and we watch individual fencers and study them and kind of have a theme for what goes on and explain different ways to deal with the different situations. So, you know, Garrick is there, David is there, and I think that makes, it's a nice sort of collaborative effort. We're fortunate to have several other guys together, so we have a small session and we can really go over that, and that's actually worked out pretty well, I thought.
So it's a heavy focus on video review and understanding kind of the patterning or just the styles you're facing.
Right, it's the habits of where it is, and then subsequently after that, then it's like the changes of habits, how that's gonna work, which way it's gonna go. And some people are not gonna change. Some of the older veterans not gonna change too much, so you have to like how you're gonna deal with it. And then it's also how you deal with a 15-touch match versus a 5-touch match. And you know, also with different situations, if we're ahead in a match, well, how is, you know, we got to expect they're going to come surging at us. So how we're going to deal with that situation, because how you deal with it when you're ahead in a match, behind in a match, or the match is even, is different. So you have to sort of deal with it, and everyone kind of understand. So when they're in that situation, they know what exactly they need to go. You know, you're ahead by a lot, you need to go chasing somebody down. You know, if you're behind, then you need to kind of like force your will a little bit more, and how you're going to set it up and make it happen is important. So these are all different things, but like I said, it's individual to each fencer, because that's the one thing about the US team. We're not a cookie cutter. If you look at the French or the Russians or the Italians, there's a tremendous similarity in the way they fence. Some of them left-handed, right-handed, things like that, but they are similar in certain tactical approaches to things. And so the thing about us is that we're all different. So when you come to fence one US fencer, and then the next fencer is completely different. You know, all of a sudden Miles is on the strip, and the next thing, you know, Garrick is fencing, and the next thing Alexander's fencing, or Race is fencing. So they're all different, so it's harder for them to deal with us a little bit more, which is good for us, but we also have to be prepared as they're also studying us a lot, because now with, of course, when you have higher visibility, everyone's watching, and you got a bullseye in your back, so definitely. That's okay.
Now how can other USA squads kind of replicate the things that you're doing in men's foil? Because, you know, women's saber has been traditionally very strong, but some of the other men's squads have lacked this kind of pipeline focus and vertical, I guess, kind of integration, if you will.
Well, I mean, it takes a variety of things, and I think part of it is creating an atmosphere. And I think the thing that I've sort of worked the most at is to create a good atmosphere where it's the guys together. I mean, a lot of times, you know, people like, for example, we're at events, I try to have the guys go by themselves, like the night before a tournament, like dinner by themselves. So it's like them, it's not me. It's
not the coaches,
just them. They have, well, we'll do a little review, talk about some things, but it's like, you guys be together. And so it's really like the 4 lads from Liverpool getting together. You know, it's us against the world. And that's really what it has to be, because those guys are going to be in the front line. We're there to help support, do all the different things. And I think that's the part that really makes us really strong. And that's what would be, I think, kind of a good idea to go forward, like maybe with some of the other squads, because I think that energy is something that is really also very good for American fencers, because it's like as who we are as Americans comes through in that same situation.
All right, Coach. Well, us against the world. That's a great way to frame it. Best of luck to you, and thanks for your time.
Thank you.